Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles, and on this episode we're doing a top 10. Topic of the top 10? Top 10 Monday Nitro moments. These are the moments I consider to be the 10 best in the history of Monday Nitro, the stuff that defines that show and what a great and significant show in the history of wrestling that it was. Let's jump right into it. Number 10. On the November 17th, 1997 episode of Monday Nitro, Rick Rude showing up on Nitro after being on a taped WWE Raw the same night. This was unprecedented to see a wrestler show up on both shows in the same night. There were plenty of times where a wrestler would wrestle a Friday and be on the other show on Monday, but never on the same night. And the way they played this was perfect. They played up the fact that he was live there, that WWF at the time was showing a recorded show. It gave more importance to WCW, showed that it was the more outrageous show and the more crazy events can happen, like a guy from WWE jumping on the same night. This was absolutely awesome. I loved it. I love Rick Rude. I thought it was a great moment in the history of Nitro. Now go from that, our number 9. From the December 18th, 1995 episode of Monday Nitro, a former Dangerous Alliance partner of Rick Rude, Medusa throws the WWF Women's Championship in the trash. Now, a lot has been said about this, and Medusa herself has gone on record saying that she wishes she didn't do that. I'm on the opinion here that I think it was an awesome moment. I understand it for what it was. And yes, it was disrespectful to a company like the WWF, but they were disrespectful to her career. This was one of those moments that's burned into your memory. When you think of Nitro, you think of stuff like this, and just how crazy it was when WWE is not really acknowledging Nitro. You have Nitro actively throwing in the trash a WWF championship. This was just an awesome moment. Again, another one of them times that Nitro did something that WWE couldn't and put them ahead of the curb instead of behind the 8 ball. Now going from that, our number 8. From the January 20th, 1997 episode of Monday Nitro, Sting rappels from the rafters for the first time to stand tall with the Macho Man. This was at a time where Macho Man kind of was a man without a country. He had made enemies on both the WCW and NWO side, and Sting was still kind of in the rafters, not really saying what side he was on. I mean, it was pretty obvious to most of the viewers that he was going to be a good guy whenever he did decide to come down from the rafters. This was the first time we seen him take action to help somebody, to help the Macho Man, who was also a shade of gray just like himself. Just a great moment in my opinion, and one of the iconic things you think of when you think of Sting's career is him coming down from the rafters. This was the first time he did it, left such an indelible mark on the business. Still to this day, people talk about Sting coming out of the rafters. Going from that, our number 7. From September 4th, 1997, Lex Luger beats Hulk Hogan for the WCW Championship. Now, this would probably be much higher on my list if the championship reign wasn't just a 1-week reign and he lost it right back at the pay-per-view less than 7 days later. For the moment it was fantastic. It was Lex Luger winning the title, defeating the evil Hulk Hogan. Someone getting a one-up on the NWO finally after a year of the NWO running roughshod over everybody. This was just an awesome moment, an awesome segment. Probably one of the crowning achievements in Luger's career. I wish he would have kept the belt for more than a month, but unfortunately that's all they gave him with it. Because of that, it didn't make it as high as I think it could have. If he would have went on an epic run here, I think it would have been much higher. Going from that, our number 6. The greatest match in the history of WCW Nitro, in my opinion, Bret the Hitman Hart versus Chris Benoit from the October 4th, 1999 episode of Monday Nitro. I know every time I bring him up, I have to prerequisite it with saying I do not agree with the guy or anything he did, but you cannot deny the fact that at the time he was one of the great wrestlers in the world, one of the best wrestlers. At the time, one of my favorite wrestlers to watch, one of my favorite wrestlers. To this day, I'm still conflicted about my fandom of Chris Benoit, and a lot of people are, because of the way his life ended. However, when you choose to look at this at what it was a tribute to Owen Hart, one of Benoit's friends that he came into the business with, obviously Bret Hart's younger brother. Just a great moment and a great match. Like I said, my favorite match in the history of Nitro. I absolutely love this match. This is why it deserved to be on the list. We'll go from that to our number 5. From the debut episode on September 4th, 1995, Lex Luger coming out at the Mall of America, just one day removed from being on a WWE show, and setting Nitro off as appointment television because you know that something crazy can happen at any time. This is awesome. A lot of people make fun of Luger for the frilly shirt he had here, which, yeah, it was ridiculous, but still, I think this is a fantastic way to start a show, to show that anything can happen here. The catchphrase in WWE was always anything can happen in the WWF. WCW proved it here that anything really can happen in WCW. Here you have one of the top talents from WWF jumping ship and coming back to WCW. Set the tone of what Nitro was and what it was going to be. I thought it was an absolutely outstanding moment. Our number 4, from the July 29th, 1996 episode of Monday Nitro, The Outsiders attack WCW. This is the famous quasi-riot scene where they basically run roughshod over the entire company. They throw Mysterio into a production truck. They leave everybody laying. It was so realistic and so violent and so much different than anything that was done before this. Yes, it's been done a million times since, but this was a template. It was so crazy that the people that lived in the local area called the cops to say that there was a riot down at Universal Studios. I think it was Universal Studios, wherever they were taping this in Orlando at the time. They called the police to say there's a riot, to go down to WCW because it looked that legitimate, like there was a gang destroying WCW. One of the great episodes of Monday Nitro, one of the great visuals in Monday Nitro history, really cemented the Outsiders and the NWO as something dangerous. One of my favorite moments in the history. I'll go from that to number 3. From the September 14th, 1998 episode of Monday Nitro, The Return of the Four Horsemen. This was after Ric Flair had been on the outs with WCW for a little while. He had finally decided to come back. They had worked out their differences, and part of that was he came out and reformed the Four Horsemen. He brought out his best friend Arn Anderson to be the manager of the group, Steve Mongo McMichael, Chris Benoit, and the new member Dean Malenko to round out the 4. This is one of the all-time great segments in Nitro history, one of the great promos in Nitro history. Much like I said with the Luger match earlier, I wish they would have done more with this than they did. If they would have made it more, this would definitely be number 1 if the Horsemen became another dangerous group that threatened to take over the company or defend the honor of Nitro. It would have been better. They didn't really do much with this incarnation of the Horsemen, hence why it's only made it 3. Even with that said, for how great that segment was, it has to be here on the list. Now, number 2, from the July 6, 1998 episode of WCW Monday Nitro, Goldberg beats Hulk Hogan at the Georgia Dome. Look, this match could be looked at a lot of different ways. It could be looked at as a bad decision to not have it on pay-per-view. It could be looked at as Hulk Hogan kind of devaluing Bill Goldberg by doing this on Nitro. It could also be looked at as a Monday night show that put 40,000 people in an arena and did a tremendous rating. This again is one of those moments that really solidified Monday Nitro as must-watch television. Very bipolar because of the reasons I mentioned. A lot of people don't like it as much. I thought it was one of the most outstanding moments, hence why it made the list. Now, before we get to our number 1, I do a thing here on my top 10s called the best of the rest. Basically, it was things that was considered for the top 10 but didn't quite make the list. First up, DDP cosplaying as La Parka on the July 7th, 1997 episode of Monday Nitro to further his feud with Randy Macho Man Savage. To me, the greatest feud in Nitro history was Savage and DDP, right up there with Hogan and Sting, in my opinion, as the 2 great feuds of that era. I lean a little bit more towards DDP and Savage because there was more matches, more build-up. This was just another great moment during that feud. One of my favorite moments of all time. I really enjoyed this reveal. I thought it was absolutely awesome. Now, last but not least, on the best of the rest, we talked about the first episode of Monday Nitro already. Now, let's talk about the last. From March 26, 2001, Monday Nitro goes off the air with Sting versus Ric Flair. Arguably the 2 guys that meant more to WCW than any 2 guys in the history of the company. Sting and Ric Flair, another all-time rivalry within WCW. The 2 stalwarts, the 2 faces of the company, getting one last ride at the top of the card This is absolutely awesome. Even watching it at the time, you didn't really realize how historically significant it would be. It wouldn't be for another 20 years that WWE had another contender that was even on the level of WCW. And I'm even going to say this now as being an AEW fan. AEW isn't as big as WCW was. And WWE is bigger than WWE ever was at this time. Just an outstanding match between two of the stalwarts, hence why it had to make it on the list. Now before we get to our number one, if you think I put something too high, something too low, left a moment off the list altogether, let me know down here in the comments. While you're there, smash that like button, share the video, subscribe if you haven't. Finally, our number one WCW Monday Nitro moment from the May 27th, 1996 episode of Monday Nitro. Scott Hall coming through the crowd, and to paraphrase, saying, "Hey yo, you know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here." Thus starting the whole Outsiders/NWO angle, one of the greatest angles in the history of wrestling, one of the great moments, basically seeing Razor Ramon coming out and starting a hostile takeover on the other company. Just a fantastic moment. My favorite moment, when I think of WCW, I think of this moment right here as being the all-time great moment, the moment that defines WCW more than anything else. The beginning of the NWO, Scott Hall jumping ship, just an awesome moment in my opinion. Like I said, if you think I put something too high, something too low, left it off the list, let me know. Also, I want to bring mention to this. If you notice, there's a little thing down here that says join. We are now offering channel memberships. Now what you will get with that, you'll get shout outs on the video, preferential treatment on your comments, chances to vote on what videos I review for my shows or topics that I do for my shows, and also early releases on some videos. You'll get them before the general people do. This is just my way of trying to raise some more money to make some more improvements. Since I've been monetized, I've been able to get a better microphone, which hopefully you can hear me better. I know my voice is kind of wrecked right now. I had a cold that I was getting over. Better lighting, hopefully I look better. I know there's not much you can do with this, but at least you can see this better. There's other improvements I would like to make. I also got a great new chair I'm sitting on. It's a leather chair. I don't know if you can see it because, yeah, it sits pretty low. It sits about here on my back, but let me see. There you go. There you can see a little bit of it. My brown leather chair there. It was brought with some of the monetization money. And there are other improvements I'd like to get. I'd like to get a faster laptop so I could edit and do these videos quicker and all kinds of other stuff. If you feel so inclined, please click the join button and become a member. Now, if you made it all the way to the end, let me know what your favorite WCW moment was. With all that being said, my name is George Coles, and this has been another Heel Heat Top 10.